Hi guys, it's me, ChazzaHD, and welcome to the latest episode of the podcast, and just welcome to the podcast today. And I just want to say before we get into today's episode that sorry, there hasn't been that many uploads in the last week or so. Basically, I've had equipment failures, mainly to do with a video camera. Now, one thing I will say is the audio stuff, that's all fixed. The editing software stuff that was breaking is all fixed. All I need to get fixed is basically the video camera side, and everything will be fixed from now on, and I should return to a normal enough editing schedule going forward. But nice to see, though, that the channel is still growing. And by the way, I just want to say thank you very much if you are a new subscriber, because we just hit 2,000 subs and we're now on to 2,040 as I am currently talking. So if you are a new sub, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. And if you are new to the channel and you haven't subbed yet, we do this every single weekend when there's not an F1 race. So don't forget to subscribe on the bottom right of the screen, or click on my channel name and go to my channel page and subscribe to the channel. And also, don't hesitate to send in a super chat. That would be very much appreciated. But today, what we're going to discuss is Pierre Gasly, who says he's not going to be a number 2 to Max Verstappen, but we're basically going to discuss, me and Nib, why he is going to be a number 2 to Max Verstappen. I'm also going to talk about and reveal so far the car reveal dates, and also talk about the car reveal dates which haven't been revealed as yet, and kind of when we expect them to be revealed. And we'll discuss the man to the left of that picture, Mick Schumacher, joining the Ferrari Driver Academy, and discuss what this move means for him and what we expect of him, you know, in 2019 and 2020, and what we see his future as going forward. But great to see you all here. No matter where you are in the world, great to see you all here for today's podcast. And now I'm going to bring in Nibloe, and I just want to say, even though it is late, a happy Australia Day, mate.
Thank you very much. Of course, it's Sunday morning here now, so no longer Australia Day. But I didn't feel like too much of an Australia Day. You know, us Australians, we like a bit of alcohol, but there was none of that today. So, yeah, pretty subpar Australia Day, honestly.
Right, well, I'll just leave it at that when it comes to that. But we'll move on and go straight into the topics for today's podcast. And first go to Pierre Gasly, who has come out and said that, you know, he wants to do well at Red Bull this year, which of course he does, but that he won't play second fiddle, and he doesn't expect to be playing second fiddle to Max Verstappen. And I kind of feel sorry for him, because I think he kind of has a bit of false hope right now, because I don't see how Pierre Gasly is not going to be the number 2 at Red Bull. And when it comes to his quote, we'll get onto it. We'll get onto it right now. By the way, I forgot to include where the source is from for this quote. It's from Autosport. I just want to make that clear. So this is what Pierre Gasly had to say when it comes to not being the number 2 and how well he wants to do for 2019. So he said, "I will take the time to be competitive, but I'm not going to be the second driver. That's not what I want, and I'm not going to be satisfied with that. If I have the car to win, then that's what I would love to do. And if I have a car which is only good enough for top 5 or for the top 5, then that's going to be the target." Now with Gasly, again, I kind of feel sorry for him, because I think he's in for a bit of a rude awakening, because I don't think Gasly, for example, is as good as Daniel Ricciardo. And even though, of course, Nib is a big Ricciardo fan, and I'm a Ricciardo fan as well, Ricciardo was definitely not as good as Max Verstappen. There was days where Ricciardo was better, but over a season, Ricciardo was not as good as Max Verstappen, and I don't think Gasly is as good as Daniel Ricciardo. So I don't see how Gasly can possibly be an equal driver to Max in terms of actual pace and skill and talent. And with the way the Red Bull team is being built, I don't see how he won't be number two. So I kind of feel sorry for him when it comes to these quotes because, again, I think he's in for quite a rude awakening once we get into the proper races in 2019. But Nib, do you also feel that way? Do you think he's in for a rude awakening? And do you think that, well, I think you said this last week, so we're basically going to be echoing what we said, but he's most likely going to be, I almost don't want to say this, but destroyed by Max.
Oh well, yeah, he is going to be destroyed by Max. He's nowhere near the level of driver that Max is. You know, I think to be fair to him, his quotes, there is. I think as a driver, you have to think in that way. If you're going to go into the team with the mindset that Max is going to destroy me, then he's going to destroy you no matter what. But if you go in there with a positive mental attitude like he is, just he's going to try and win races. He has to be positive. So yeah, I think Gasly has to come in with this mindset. Otherwise, he's doomed right from the start. As much as I still think he is doomed right from the start, this is the only way which he could approach it and perhaps be successful against Verstappen.
Yeah, I see your point, but I mean, he does have to think that way because if he comes into the team thinking, well, I'm just a number two to Max Verstappen, then he's not really going to work out. And it's kind of, when you said that, for example, when Sebastian Vettel was at Red Bull, and of course he had Mark Webber there. Now, Mark Webber, let's be honest, in the last couple of years, he was pretty much the number two driver, even though there were races where Mark did beat him. You know, Mark was the number two driver, but Mark still went out and competed against Vettel like he was the equal or the number one driver. And I think you're right. He does have to have that mindset because if he goes in thinking that he's going to get absolutely destroyed, then he probably will get destroyed more than we actually think he will. But I also want to make this point that I've actually thought for the last couple of weeks now is Pierre Gasly going to Red Bull and being at Red Bull kind of reminds me of when Danny Kvyat went to Red Bull. Now, let me explain why. Because, for example, when Kvyat joined Red Bull, he was announced at Red Bull right after Sebastian Vettel announced he was going to Ferrari, and Red Bull couldn't really go for anyone else. I mean, they could have gone for Jean-Eric Vergne, but I think his ship had sailed. But yeah, they could only really go for Kvyat, and they put him in the car belatedly again because they didn't really have any other massive options on the table to partner Daniel Ricciardo. And that's what it feels like with Pierre Gasly, because if you look at what happened during the summer, Daniel Ricciardo announced he was going to Renault in what was a shock move. There's no doubt about it. It was a shock decision. And Red Bull had no choice but to go for Pierre Gasly. I mean, they could have gone for Carlos Sainz, but Verstappen and Sainz in the same team, even though I thought that would be a good lineup, realistically, it wouldn't have worked out because they probably would have ended up crashing into each other because they are the type of personalities which are going to clash inside of a Formula One team. So, yeah, I just think that he does remind me a lot of Danny Kvyat, and I hope he doesn't suffer the same fate as Kvyat and gets dropped midway through 2020 or midway through 2021, because I think he should be given, even though I don't rate him that highly, I don't think he should be given I think he should be given a fair enough chance. Don't expect him to beat Max Verstappen because he's not going to. But if he does a good enough job as a number two driver, then for me that is enough. But Nib, do you kind of see that comparison between Kvyat and Pierre Gasly? Because again, it really does remind me of that situation.
Yeah, I agree with you. There was only really two options that Red Bull could go with because it was such a shock and late decision in the year that the driver market was, well, Red Bull were very tied up in who they could go for. It was either Sainz or Gasly. And of course, I think there are deeper lying issues between Sainz and Verstappen. We've seen that in Toro Rosso. They butted heads quite a bit. I remember Australia, at Singapore, and I think there was another occasion where they butted heads. And Red Bull really don't need to have that after Weber and Vettel days. You saw how much Christian Horner changed through those couple of years, how much hair he's lost, how much grayer he's gone. Because if you go back to the start of the 2009 season, Christian Horner has this lovely long hair, and then he just had all this short grey hair. You know, the poor man was all stressed out. So I don't think Red Bull need any of that. So I very much understand why they went for Gasly, and I think it was the right decision to go with Gasly. I do agree with you. It is almost like a very Kvyat situation here. I don't think he will get dropped. I don't see him a driver who crashes a lot. And to be fair to Kvyat, it was twice. It wasn't all the time. You know,
Yeah.
it was just there was some pressure put on. Max was there. They wanted Max. Max was very quick. We could always see that. But with Gasly, I don't think there really is anyone who could come in. You know, Dan ticked him. Horner is not keen. He's not on Toro Rosso, so there's no way. I don't think he'd put Albon or Kvyat into Red Bull. So I think Gasly's seat would be safe for the year, and I certainly hope he doesn't lose his seat because I really don't like seeing drivers losing their seat during the season. You know, I'm not a fan of it. But yeah, at the end of the day, he's going to be number two driver to Max. That's how Red Bull will operate. As much as Horner will like to say, "Oh, at Red Bull we go with two equal drivers," it's just not true. We've seen that with Weber and Vettel towards the end from 2011 onwards. It just wasn't the case. So yeah, it will be very interesting to see how Gasly does perform and whether or not he can surprise us at Red Bull this year.
I hope he does surprise us because I just feel like he's going to get destroyed by Max and be not miles off the pace, but not getting the kind of pace out of the car that maybe his predecessor in that seat would. Now, I know Daniel Ricciardo isn't as fast as Max either, but Ricciardo, I think, say this time next year, and I think we basically know this now, I think Ricciardo is a lot more competitive of a driver against a driver like Max Verstappen than Pierre Gasly would be or is. So, yeah, I think Gasly, I think, as you said, Christian Horner, he can say all he wants about, oh, we only have two equal drivers, but it hasn't been the case all the time with Red Bull, and it's not going to be the case here. So I think Pierre Gasly will be the number two at Red Bull, but let me see and hear what you guys have to say in the live chat right now. Post your comments in the live chat and I'll read out as many as I can in the next 5 minutes or so. And again, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe on the bottom right of the screen. Click there to subscribe, or go to my channel page by clicking my channel name, going to the page and subscribing to the channel. But right, I'll read through some comments now, see what you guys have to say when it comes to Kvyat, or not Kvyat, Pierre Gasly, and also the Kvyat comparison, I guess. JB, imagine if Gasly gets dropped and Kvyat gets promoted. That would be the biggest surprise, I think, of 2019. That really would be a massive surprise. Simon Cragland, Sainz has said that he and Max get along well. I don't think Sainz and Verstappen crash into each other that often. Max is way better than Sainz. They can say that they get along well, but once you get into a car that is good enough to win races, as we saw with Rosberg and Hamilton, the friendship goes away. So, yeah, I don't think that would last long at Red Bull. Astro Stevo, what was the launch date for the new cars again? Please, we'll get onto that in just a moment. In about 5 minutes' time, I'll show you guys the dates for car reveals that have been revealed so far. Rona Brady, I think Red Bull, who are likely to be third fastest, so in order for them to achieve maximum potential, they need a #1 driver. Yes, they do, because if by some miracle, say in the first, I don't know, 8 or 9 races, if Red Bull do have clearly the third fastest car, if they then, say by mid-season on, then have one of the best cars on the grid, if they support Max well enough in those first 7 or 8 races, you never know, they could be supporting later on a driver's championship bid. They could be. So we'll have to see what happens on that front. Nicholas, do you believe although Red Bull have the third fastest car, but they do a good job on reliability and a little more speed, that Max will fully push the car to the max, no pun intended, to challenge for a title? You have to have at least, realistically, I know Alonso in 2012 had the 4th or 5th fastest car, and he came 3 points away from winning the championship, but realistically, you have to have at least the 2nd fastest car. You can't have the 3rd or 4th fastest in a normal season. So they need to be, 2nd fastest at least to win the championship. I think Max is a very good driver, a great driver. And by the way, if you haven't checked out my latest video about Max Verstappen, which I uploaded yesterday, check it out. It's in the description. It's called Max Verstappen, the heir to the F1 throne. The link is in the description to that video. He's clearly a very good, if not great driver, but he can only get out so much performance out of that car. But to win a championship, again, even if you outperform the car, you still need to have probably the 2nd fastest car to actually win it. So I think, say if Mercedes have the fastest car, then they have to be, at start the season, around Ferrari. Somewhere around Ferrari, in my opinion. Right, we'll read a couple more comments, I think, and then I will move on to the car reveal dates. Right, let me just look through the chat to see some more comments. Cody Payne, Gasly could be top 5 in the first few races and Max crashes out or have reliability issues. That is possible, but I think for Gasly it'd be better if he beat Verstappen whilst Verstappen was still in the race instead of Max retiring. I think that would be better for his confidence. Astro Stevo, I predict Verstappen will crash a lot and that Red Bull will have huge reliability issues and struggle. I hope karma gets them. We'll see what happens on that front. By the way, talking of Red Bull and Honda, my video a couple of weeks ago, the This Week in F1, talking about Honda's setback, is actually doing really well. So if you have watched that video and supported that video and enjoyed it, then thank you very much for that. Right, I'll read out one more and then we'll move on to the next topic. Francisco makes a great point. You also need reliability to win the championship. Max is in a Red Bull, so yeah, that is true. The only way you can win a championship and still have bad reliability or not good reliability is if you are in the clear fastest car. For example, if you go back to 1999, where McLaren had the fastest car by quite a bit, the reason Häkkinen only won the championship at the final race was because McLaren had so many reliability issues with that car that it actually made the championship competitive when, in terms of the pace of the cars, McLaren should have walked that season, but they didn't, because the Mercedes engine back then was just, it was very powerful, but it didn't have really any reliability. But we'll move on from that and go on to our next topic. And that is that the car reveals are coming very, very soon. This is a screenshot of Sauber announcing their car reveal. And basically, guys, what I'm using this as, I'm using this to kind of announce again what we are going to be doing on the channel during the car reveals. And I'll just throw up this on the screen. I didn't actually have time to design a graphic to show the dates for each team in the car reveal, so I borrowed this from our friends at FOM. So Ferrari, 15th of February, Renault, 12th of February, McLaren, Valentine's Day, 14th of February, Racing Point, 13th of February, Sauber, 18th of February, and the earliest one announced so far is Toro Rosso on the 11th of February, which is in 16 days' time, I believe. I believe that is in 16 days' time. So in 16 days will be, unless Williams, Haas, Red Bull, or Mercedes, unless they do a car reveal before, Toro Rosso's car reveal will be the first one coming out very, very soon. Now, when it comes to the 4 teams that have yet to reveal their cars, with Mercedes, they normally tend to reveal their car 2 or 3 days before the first day of testing. And if you base it on last year, Mercedes revealed their car on the same day as Ferrari did. So I would expect Mercedes to reveal their car on the 15th or maybe even the 16th of February. Hopefully they don't do it on the 16th of February, because that's when I'm traveling out to pre-season testing. But yeah, I'd say 14th, 15th of February. I don't think they'll reveal it earlier, because if they were going to reveal it earlier, I think they would have announced that by now. Now, with Red Bull, apparently, it's unconfirmed, but apparently Red Bull are going to be revealing their car on the first day of pre-season testing. Now, again, this is not confirmed. I personally don't believe it, because last year there was also plenty of people saying that Red Bull were going to reveal their car on the first day of testing, and they revealed it 1 week exactly before. So I wouldn't believe the people saying that at the moment. I think they will go for a car reveal before testing actually starts, but we'll have to see on that. Williams, they were the first to reveal their cars last year. Now, because they don't have any money, I don't think they're going to reveal their car until the first day of testing, because, well, they probably can't afford a camera to actually film the new car. So they'll probably reveal their car.
Cheap shot.
They'll probably reveal their car on the first day of testing, most likely. But the one that is hard to predict is Haas, because last year they revealed their car out of nowhere. They didn't announce when they were going to reveal their car. They just randomly revealed it out of nowhere. And I think, were they the first to reveal their car? Actually, I think I might be wrong. I think Haas were the first to reveal their car, but they did it out of the blue. They didn't announce they were going to reveal it. They just posted a couple pictures that weren't real. They were rendered pictures of the car. But yeah, with Haas, we may have to keep an eye out for them, because I get the feeling with them they could just reveal it out of nowhere. So if they do reveal it out of nowhere and you don't hear any updates from me, make sure, and this goes for Nib as well, to spam my Discord DM or Twitter DM saying that the Haas car has been revealed. And that goes for any of the 4 teams left. If they reveal it out of the blue, then make sure to spam my Discord DM or Twitter DM in case I don't know yet. Because the plan, guys, for the car reveals on the channel is going to be, I don't know, Nib, if you're going to be able to make every single one, but the plan is I'm going to go live half an hour after each car reveal, which we know is absolutely happening. Unless they, reveal it out of nowhere, then we may go live an hour or 2 hours after. again, depending on when I find out the information and the car, and I've seen the car. But the plan is, with the car reveals, 30 minutes after they're revealed, we will go live on the channel and show the new car and analyze what it looks like, the aero pieces, and also the differences between the 2018 car and the 2019 car. And that will be coming, of course, when the cars get revealed in just over 2 weeks' time. But Nib, will you be able to make it for those car reveals?
Yeah, yeah, of course. Unless there is an out of the blue one where everyone will spam you in Discord, and then you can attempt to call me and attempt to wake me up, of course. But yeah, of course, I'll be able to make them.
That's all good then, and I can't wait. I really can't wait, and it's weird. It doesn't feel like the car reveals are that close, but they are just over 2 weeks away. So I cannot wait. And also, if you don't know yet, I will be going to pre-season testing all 8 days and reporting from the track with a video camera, microphone, and everything else. So I cannot wait until we get into the car reveals, and I'm hoping one of the 4 teams that have yet to reveal when their car reveals are, I hope they announce that theirs is going to be earlier than Toro Rosso's, but realistically I don't think they will. I think, for example, Toro Rosso, they're revealing their car on the 11th of February, which is the Monday. That's exactly 7 days before testing starts. Basically, that week is just going to be car reveals. So if they are going to reveal their cars, it's either going to be on the first day of testing or it's going to be during that full week before. So yeah, that's what I think is going to happen with that. Let me just check the chat room to see what people are saying about these car reveals. Just looking at Annette. Oh, how exciting. Yes, it is very exciting. Right, let me just... any predictions for major livery changes? Haas are definitely going to be designing a different one because they now have... Oh, what's the name of them? Is it Rich Energy? Yeah,
Rich
it is.
Energy.
Yes. Yeah. So their car's going to be black and gold like the Lotus. Williams, I think they're going to have a different livery because Martini is now gone. I don't think they'll go for white. I think they'll go for something very basic, like maybe mostly black and white, something like that. Well, Racing Point, this is the thing that's interesting with the Racing Point reveal is that apparently their reveal on the 13th of February is not a car reveal. It's a team name and livery reveal. So I don't know what's going to be happening on that day, but we'll see. But yeah, Racing Point, Williams, Haas, and after that, I think it's going to be pretty much the same for the rest of the teams. I don't see Renault, for example, going for a radical new livery. I think it's going to be mostly the same, except for most likely Racing Point, Williams, and Haas. Do we know the name for the Point Force Racing Stroll's daddy? That's from Astro Stevo. When will we know? Likely, it'll be on the 13th of February. What that reveal apparently is about is more revealing the new name and the livery than it is revealing the car. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. Simon Cragland, I think Ferrari will go for a white car. I would like to see Ferrari go for a camouflage livery. Go put the Ferrari car in yellow. I'd love to see that.
It's Ferrari.
I know. No, not for the real racing, just for testing, like Red Bull've done a couple times.
Yeah, but it's Ferrari. They're just not going to. Come on, it's Ferrari.
Why not? It's testing. It doesn't mean anything, apparently. So, you know, yeah, why not? Why? It'd be great, but Anyway, this is the thing though, is like, even if they turn up to testing in yellow, we all know what they're going to look like in red. So, yeah. Right, let me just look at a couple more comments. Do Williams have any new sponsors lined up to replace Martini? Not to my knowledge. I don't think they do. I don't think they do. And it's not a surprise because, well, they finished last season. So why would they attract new sponsors? No one wants to be... No one wants to sponsor a team that is, you know, might sound harsh to say, but the biggest loser from 2018. So why would they want to sponsor them? But yeah, I don't think they have a new sponsor, which is very bad news for Williams, which I am actually going to get onto in a video coming out in the next month or so. So keep your eyes out on videos coming soon. But yeah, we'll move on from that and go on to our next story, which is Mick Schumacher joining the Ferrari Driver Academy. And this is expected because, of course, his father, Michael Schumacher, had such a closely tied relationship to Ferrari, winning 5 drivers' titles with Ferrari, so many races, getting so many pole positions and podiums. Not a surprise that Mick is now at Ferrari. So, yeah, I think this is not only not a surprise, but it is great news because compared to the Mercedes Academy or the Renault Academy, Ferrari, their academy right now is actually looking like the most successful one right now. You have Leclerc at Ferrari right now. Giovinazzi is now at Sauber. If you compare that to Red Bull, yes, they've just promoted Gasly into the Red Bull. But if you look at the Toro Rosso team, it has 2 people who, well, were fired from the academy once upon a time. Renault, their academy drivers, they normally come in each season with 5 or 6 drivers in their academy, and none of them end up actually driving in Formula 1. I think the only one was Sorokin, but most of the time their drivers don't end up driving in F1. And Mercedes, yes, Mercedes have Russell and Ocon, but Esteban Ocon, and this also goes for Pascal Wehrlein, but those drivers being a part of the Mercedes Academy has actually affected, you know, where they drive. Ocon is not on the grid because he is a part of the Mercedes Driver Academy. Now, he probably is going to be at Mercedes in 2020, but if he's not, then him being a part of that academy is a terrible decision. And again, for Wehrlein, the reason he's not in F1 is basically because he was a part of the Mercedes Driver Academy. Even though he got into F1, basically because of that, it also came back to bite him, because that's why he was dropped from Sauber, was because he was a part of the Mercedes driver program and they didn't want him at the, well, Sauber is basically a Ferrari B team, so that's obviously why they didn't go for Wehrlein. But I think, again, with Mick being at the Ferrari Driver Academy, it's great because it looks as though, with the way things are going, that people in the Ferrari Driver Academy, if you are talented enough, you do get a chance at one of the Ferrari B teams. Look at Leclerc last year, and also Antonio Giovinazzi. So if Mick Schumacher does win the F2 title, which I think he has a lot tougher of a fight for that than people think, because to be honest, I wouldn't say Mick is the favourite to win the championship in F2. I'd say Nick De Vries is the favourite in that series, because De Vries, especially in the second half of that season, was pretty good. Yeah, I think Mick has a tough fight on his hands, but if he does win the F2 title, I don't see how Mick Schumacher will not be on the grid for 2020. I don't see how he can't be on the grid for 2020 if he wins the F2 title. If he doesn't, then he probably will be on the grid for 2021. But yeah, I think Mick, well, for Mick it's pretty simple. If you win the F2 title, you're going to be on the F1 grid in 2020. So hopefully, for his sake, he does do that. But yeah, Nib, what do you think about Mick joining the Ferrari driver academy? And do you think also if he wins the F2 title in 2019, do you think that effectively guarantees a seat at Sauber for 2020?
Well, yeah, this isn't really a major shock after Mick's terrific European Formula 3 season last year, but I would like to point out in the 2017 European Formula 3 season, he did not have the greatest of times. He only got one podium and finished 12th in the championship, and I do remember that because I did watch quite a few of the races, but he turned it around halfway through the 2018 championship and then absolutely blitzed home. I remember he won 5 races in a row towards the end of the season, and that's what made him win the championship ahead of Dan Ticktum and Yuri Vips and Scott Armstrong. All of those, not Scott Armstrong. What's his name? Armstrong anyway.
Marcus.
In that Marcus Armstrong. That's right. In that, but it's certainly not a full blown conclusion that he's going to win the Formula 2 championship. I think that some of the hype train building, I really don't think that he will win the championship. I agree with you. De Vries, for me, is absolutely the favourite at the moment. You know, you got Sergio Sete Camara there as well from Brazil. He's a good driver in my opinion. Of course, you got everyone's favourite Jack Aitken there as well. You know, but it's certainly not going to be a walk in the park. You know, there was some good drivers on the grid last year in the European Formula 3 Championship, but not to the level that there is on the F2 grid. So I don't think it's a full blown conclusion that he's going to win. And as I had previously mentioned, he didn't have a good start in the Formula 3 European Formula 3 cars. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes from Formula 3 cars to Formula 2 cars, because he did struggle with that initially. So yeah, but if he does win the championship, then it is absolutely a full-blown conclusion that he will be driving for Sauber in 2020. But I don't think that will happen at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think people need to be realistic. Mick, he's only produced half a year of proper great results, and has really only for half a year shown in his junior formula career so far that he can be an F1 driver. And I think people do need to lay off the hype train, because as Nib says, in his first year in European Formula 3, he wasn't good at all. So yeah, I think people need to kind of lay off the hype train a bit. And also, Nick De Vries, he should be the favourite because he is the highest placed driver from 2018 to still be on the grid. So he should be the favourite because how many races did he win? 3 or 4? He won more races than Lando Norris. So he really should be the favourite, and I think Nick De Vries is the favourite. And by the way, another interesting battle that I'm looking forward to is De Vries versus Sete Camara, because they are both a part of the McLaren driver program. I am really looking forward to that. And if you add in Mick Schumacher, if he does perform as well as people think he will, then we're in for a great 3-way battle in 2019. But yeah, I'm interested to see De Vries versus Sete Camara. And I like De Vries, but I kind of hope Sete Camara does well, because I want to see a Brazilian driver back on the grid. It's an absolute crime that there's not a Brazilian on the grid. There has to be a Brazilian driver on the grid, because Brazil is such an important part of the history of F1. To not have a Brazilian on the grid is, again, it's a crime. It's a crying shame that we don't have a Brazilian on the grid. So hopefully Sete Camara does enough to maybe impress, I don't know, Toro Rosso. Maybe if Red Bull don't want to put Dan Dickdom in their car for 2020. So yeah, I think I'm interested. De Vries versus Sete Camara, but if you add in Mick Schumacher, and also I think is it Antoine Hubert who is the GP3 champion, even though he's like 24 or 25 years old, which is very old for someone, you know, in the Junior Formula Series. If you add him in, if he does perform well, you never know. Could be a four-way battle. But I don't think the field, though, in F2 this season coming is as good as it was for 2018. I think the 2018 field, honestly, was probably the best field we've ever had in GP2/F2. It was, I mean, the top three in the championship are in F1 now, and you have De Vries, who's a part of the McLaren driver program and won more races than Norris, who finished in second. Markelov, great driver. You know, Sete Camara, Latifi, very, very good field of drivers last year. But yeah, I'm interested to watch F2 in 2019. But I want to hear what you guys have to say about Mick Schumacher joining Ferrari. And what do you think is going to happen with him in F2 this season? Do you think that he can win the title? Or do you think it'll be De Vries or Sete Camara or Hubert? Let me know in the chat right now. And I'll get to answering or reading out some comments. But again, if you are new to the channel, we do the podcast every weekend where there's not an F1 race weekend. So don't forget to subscribe at the bottom right of the screen. Don't forget to click subscribe there. Or click on my channel name, go to my channel page and subscribe to the channel. Like this video, comment down below what you thought of this video and the topics we have discussed so far. And also, go into the description and check out the videos, the last two videos I've put up on the channel, including the Max Verstappen video I uploaded yesterday, which it seems a lot of you actually did like a lot. But right, I'll get into reading some comments now. Right, let me take a look. Astra Stevo, I'd like Bruno Senna to come back. I know I'm in the minority there, you definitely are. But still, guess there's no chance of that, though. No, there's none, because he's too old and, well, he's been proven to not be that good. So that's why he's not in in F1 or really racing in a proper competitive series anymore. Andrew Drury, it would be a disgrace if Dickdom was allowed in F1. It would. Now, Dan Dickdom hasn't done enough for me. I know I say that a lot, by the way, but it describes who he is. He's a dick. He is a dick. But I don't hate the guy, but again, I can't possibly like him. I can't. Based on what he's done so far in his career. And by the way, I just want to make this point as well. Forget all of the attitude problems and the crashing into people under the safety car and all of that stuff. If you actually look at his results, what's Dan Ticktum actually done? I mean, he's won the Macau Grand Prix twice. That's great. But if you actually look at winning championships, what has he actually done? He hasn't done that much. The best result he's had was finishing second to Mick Schumacher, and I wouldn't call it a good result because he bottled the lead and then accused Mick of cheating, or the series of cheating. So I don't understand also why people think this guy's good enough when, if you look at his results, he's not that good. Look at the, is it the Asian F3 Winter Series? He's 8th or something in that series. And guess what? He's behind another Schumacher. He's behind David Schumacher, who I think is Ralph Schumacher's son. So he can't escape Schumachers. And again, he's in a Winter Series, which, by the way, it turns out, funnily enough, that that series does not give him really any super license points, which I find hilarious, because he responded apparently to a comment on Instagram where he said, I think he says something like, well, of course it gives me points because why do you think I'm out here? But it turns out it doesn't really give him anything going forward. But yeah, I don't get the hype with the guy. He hasn't done that much in his career. if he had won every series he's competed in, or almost every series, and he has these attitude problems, at least you could say, well, he's very talented, but he just has to work a lot on his on the mental side of his game. But if you get rid of the mental issues, he's not that good. He's not that good as a driver. There's plenty of drivers that are in lower positions right now that would be more worthy of a seat in F1 based on what they've done in Junior Formula series than him. So I don't get the hype. I don't get the hype at all. Right, let me just look at a couple comments after that rant. Francisco, if Antonio, let me just read that, it's gone up. If Antonio Giovinazzi doesn't perform this season, brackets, I hope he does, let's go Salva, do you see Mick Schumacher entering F1 in 2020? The only way Mick can get into F1 in 2020 without winning the F2 title is if Giovinazzi is so poor that, you know, even though he probably isn't ready, he would probably still do a better job in that car. That's the only way I see that happening. Simon Cragland, I get the hype about Ticktum. He's a very good driver. I don't see it at all. I don't see it at all. If you're going to have that type of attitude, at least have talent to back it up. But he clearly doesn't. By the way, Ultraman Nexus, can you please stop deleting messages, please? To do with Dan Ticktum. Yeah, I don't see it. Again, I think I've said this before, that top drivers normally have an ego. You have to have an ego, but normally the best drivers are a bit of a dick. And, well, they have a reason to be a bit of a dick because they have the talent to back it up. But if you're a bit of a dick, or not even a bit of a dick, a massive dick, but you don't have the talent to back it up, then that is going to backfire so hard on you. So not only does he need to work on his mental issues, but he actually has to improve his results, because I have not seen enough from Dan Ticktum compared to other drivers who are coming through the ranks. I haven't seen enough evidence that Dan Ticktum has actually done enough or is deserving enough to be a Formula One driver ever. He needs to improve his results. What he needs to do, even though he's not going to, which I think is another crying shame, he should be in F2 this season. He really should be in F2. I don't get why he's not, because that would really show how good he is. And if he's not good enough, at least he would show. At least it would show. Sorry, that you know, what areas of his driving and his mental issues that he has to work on. But no, they wanted to compete in a pointless Asian Winter Series, which has, I think, 3 rounds of the championship. So yeah, I don't get that. I don't get why he's in that series. He should be in F2. Should be in F2. And I've noticed this. I don't know if you've noticed this, Nib, but Red Bull young drivers don't tend to compete in GP2 or F2. Have you noticed that?
I have noticed that. I actually can't remember the last time there was a Red Bull driver who was
Gasly.
in F2.
Gasly, but
okay, Gasly.
Other than him, I mean, what, Kvyat, he won the GP3 title, then went to Toro Rosso. Hartley wasn't an F2 or GP2 driver. Neither was Verne. Verne, I think, was a Formula Renault 3.5 driver, and I think so was Daniel Ricciardo.
Ricciardo was.
Yeah, Ricciardo was. Buemi and Alguersuari weren't. Yeah, they really don't like that series. I don't know why, because it is the best place to showcase whether a driver is good enough, but for some reason they'd rather these weird other series, which, again, if you want to showcase that that driver is good enough, why not just put them in that series? It's like they avoid it like it's a disease or something. I don't know why. But right, we'll move on I think now to the Q&A. But yeah, we'll move on to the Q&A now. Guys, make sure in the chat to post your questions over the next, I don't know, 10 to 15 minutes, and we'll answer as many as we can. So make sure to put them in the live chat. And also, if you're watching this after, don't hesitate to put your comments in the comment section, and I'll make sure I answer those as soon as I can. So don't hesitate to post those in the comment section. But for the people in the live chat and for the people watching live, post your questions now in the live chat, and for the next 15 minutes, me and Nib will try to answer as many as we can.
Just quickly, Ultraman Nexus asked earlier on, isn't camera switched to Haas junior team? No, that is another Brazilian you're thinking about, and that is Pietro Fittipaldi.
Yeah.
That is who is the Haas reserve driver.
Yeah, that is who he was thinking of. And I think, who else is it Louis Delatraz is also the other young driver there, I think. I know he's done testing with them. He did testing in Abu Dhabi. Yeah. Right, just looking at the chat. Nicholas says Ayrton Senna was a dick and he had his attitude, but he was the best out of all the others. Yes, but again, as I said, if you're going to be a dick, at least have the talent to back it up. Don't be a dick and not have the talent to back it up. I mean, he does have talent. I'm not saying he doesn't have talent, but I haven't seen enough talent to suggest he should be in Formula One ahead of Albon or Kvyat or even Sergei Sorokin, to be honest. I haven't seen enough. If he competed in F2 this season and won the championship, I'd admit he's good enough, put him in F1. But I haven't seen it. I haven't seen enough. Well, let me just look. Simon Craglan, if Schumacher wins F2, then which team do you think he will join? It will be Sauber. It'll be Sauber. Haas, even though Haas have a technical partnership with Ferrari, they don't tend to listen to Ferrari in terms of who to put in their car as a driver. So it will be Sauber. Sauber is the proper Ferrari B team. Haas is like a, I don't know, halfway between an A and a B. Mario Master, I think Red Bull will start out third fastest and then have a similar thing to this year. Getting closer to Mercedes and Ferrari, maybe having the fastest race pace. Like in Brazil, I can't see Honda being poor. Well, you're pretty optimistic there, but if they have that kind of season again, I think that'll be a very successful first season for Red Bull in partnership with Honda, because this season with this partnership is supposed to be the weakest year of the partnership. They're not going to be at their strongest together in 2019. I think in 2020 they'll be a lot stronger, but that's only if really 2019 isn't a disaster, and I hope it isn't. Francisco says, I'll just quickly show that. Nelson Piquet was also a big dick. Yeah, but as I've said, you have to have a bit of ego about you, but you also have to have that raw talent to back that up. I've just missed a comment there from Tonka Toy Truck saying, what did I miss? Basically, we've talked about Pierre Gasly and why he will be a number 2 to Max Verstappen, gone through the car reveals and what dates the car reveal dates are so far, and also talked about Mick Schumacher joining the Ferrari Driver Academy. And now we're into the Q&A, as you can see on your screen. So yeah, make sure to ask a question. Simon Cragland, but instead of who, it should be Kimi. Depends on performance. It really does depend on performance. Because if Kimi Raikkonen, say if the Sauber car is as quick as it was at the end of last year, if Kimi Raikkonen is consistently in the points and Kimi wants to be in F1 in 2020, then you can only really get rid of Giovinazzi, but that's of course if Giovinazzi doesn't perform. So it'll be Giovinazzi, it won't be Kimi Räikkönen, unless Kimi Räikkönen says, you know what, I can't be bothered, I'm gonna go. Kimi also driving 1 year for Sauber is pretty odd. Yep, it is. Well, that would be pretty odd, but I don't think he will be driving for 1 year. I think it will be at least 2 years, maybe 3, depending on the performance of the Sauber car. Tonka Toy Truck, Sauber and Toro Rosso are both going to perform much higher than last year. I also saw something, I want to get your thoughts on this, Nib. With Sauber, they came out and said that the midfield teams, their rivals, should be fearing them. Do you think that's true?
Who was this? Sauber?
Sauber, yeah. Sauber said that the midfield teams or their midfield rivals should be fearing them for 2019. Do you think that should be the case?
I mean, look how strongly they finished off the year. They were the fastest car in the midfield, and if they'd had the issue at the start of the season was they couldn't. They had so many new bits and pieces on the car. They weren't used to having such good air on the car. They didn't really know exactly what they're doing. And once they figured that out, you've seen how good they were. You've seen how well Leclerc was performing, and with Raikkonen and a very potentially good driver in Giovinazzi there, if they are able to hit the ground running in pre-season testing and at the start of the season, I think the midfield could be very worried about them indeed. So yeah, I think Sauber are right.
Also, I want to get your thoughts on something, which, by the way, I just want to announce. This week in F1 will be back. It will be back tomorrow, where I am going to talk about the Eddie Irvine story, where Eddie Irvine came out and said that Vettel is massively overrated and a one-trick pony. I want to get your thoughts quickly, but I'm not going to reveal my thoughts until tomorrow. It may surprise people, but I'm not going to reveal my thoughts until tomorrow. But tomorrow's stream at 3 p.m. UK time, by the way, is going to be about that mainly. There will be a couple other stories. One about Renault. Renault have come out and said that their entire car is completely new or radical, except for the power steering. I'll get onto that as well in tomorrow's This Week in F1. But yeah, what do you think about those comments? Do you think Irvine's right or no?
Well, it's been blown massively out of proportion, Mr. Irvine's comments. It was in the article. It was an Autosport interview, wasn't it? I think it was.
It was originally it was a BBC Northern Ireland interview, but yeah, Autosport is where it was popularized.
Yes, I think it was the comments. I think these comments were in like the 5th paragraph of the article. It was just a little comment that he made, and yeah, it's been blown massively out of proportion. It's obviously Vettel isn't a one-trick pony. We know this, you know. Yes, he's very good at controlling the race once he's in front. I think that's what Irvine means by being a one-trick pony.
Yeah.
But we've seen Vettel come through the field and win races before. You know, I don't think that's quite true. Vettel is a quite complete driver. He's not a fully complete driver, but he's a pretty complete driver. Is Sebastian Vettel? You know, he's not a full-time world champion for no reason. I think there is some room to criticize Vettel. Of course, there is. You know, there was lots of criticism of him last year, deservedly, and the year before that. But yeah, I think Irvine is hit and miss with these comments. That's for sure. But yeah, as expected, blown completely out of proportion.
What did you think of the reaction to the story?
Typical F1 community reaction.
Yeah,
really.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just the most typical reaction that you could see when there's really no news going about. So, yeah, I wasn't too surprised by the reaction.
Yeah, I think people basically know what my opinion of it is now, but I'll get onto it tomorrow, but I will say the reaction in the F1 community, which I am going to criticize tomorrow, way too, again, blown out proportion. The reaction has been ridiculous, quite frankly ridiculous. And I'm also going to illustrate how some people's logic out there, and the type of logic I've seen on Twitter after this story was published, how hypocritical and dumb it is. I'll get onto it tomorrow, though. I'll get onto it tomorrow. But let's go through some more questions. Simon Craglan, what does a one-trick pony mean, by the way? Basically, it means that you're only good at one thing, or you only have one talent. So what Irvine was basically saying is Vettel is a one-trick pony, and the one trick he has is that he is very good at controlling a race and is quite... I'd honestly say unbeatable in that type of position, but he's not. He's not a one-trick pony. We've seen great overtakes. He can overtake cars, you know, very well. He can fight his way through the Grand Prix. We've seen this before. He's not a one-trick pony, but that's his opinion, of course. Right, let me just find some more. And that, I wish I had a crystal ball to see how Red Bull and Renault will do next year or this year. Yep, I wish I did. I really think Renault are going to be better than a lot of people think. I don't think they'll be top 3, but I think they'll be closer to Red Bull than some people think. I think they'll be within a second of Red Bull in 2019, but they'll still be comfortably way off Red Bull, but they should be comfortably at the front of the midfield. Should Renault. And that also says Eddie Irvine's a prat. Tonka Toy Truck, Eddie and Lewis both talk dribble. Astro Stevo, don't forget how Danny Rick thrashed Vettel when both were at Red Bull in 2014 too. Yeah. This is the one thing I think people are forgetting is that season. That really affected, and for me it still affects his not necessarily his credibility, but his legacy. Because, you know, to win 4 titles in a row the way he did, and then to get beaten by a rookie comfortably, not a literal rookie, but a rookie in the team, that I don't see that happening with other types of drivers. I don't see it happening with other types of drivers. I mean, Alonso, of course, wasn't literally beaten. He finished a level on points with Lewis, but he was basically beaten, especially mentally, by Hamilton in 2007. But the way that Vettel lost to Ricciardo, I don't think Alonso or Hamilton would lose to a rookie in the team like that. Again, Alonso basically did lose to Hamilton, but it was still very, very close. And, well, literally on points. They finished level on points. I don't think Alonso, you know, would get comfortably beaten, or Hamilton would get comfortably beaten by a rookie in the team. And I think that does affect his legacy a lot more than people want to think. Mario Master, Honda is not bad enough for a team barely able to beat a 1-year-old Ferrari to overtake them. Yeah, I see your point there. Renault will not beat Red Bull this year. No, they won't. They won't. But I think that, again, they'll be closer to Red Bull than people think.
This is stemmed from my mate Astro Stevo putting tinfoil hat, his Daddy Ricciardo hat on, and saying that Renault would beat Red Bull this year. Listen, we're all massive Daniel Ricciardo fans, but calm down. Calm down.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, look, if Renault are as good as we think they'll be, Ricciardo's going to be P7 at best in the championship. And even if they're slightly off, Ricciardo might still be P7. They're not going to be beating Red Bull, and Ricciardo's not going to be right up there. Let's, as Nib said, let's calm down. I said in my Ricciardo video that I made a couple weeks ago that it will work out for Ricciardo eventually. It's going to take 2 or 3 years for it eventually to work out. So yeah, let's just wait. Nicholas, Renault is just talk. All they've talked about during winter is Red Bull. I don't know why they are so focused on Red Bull. They only criticize Red Bull while Red Bull are focused on Mercedes and Ferrari. Well, Renault have to be focused on Red Bull because in the constructors, that is their next target, is to get closer to and beat Red Bull. So they have to. They have to talk about and be kind of obsessive about beating Red Bull because that's their next target. I don't think they have anything to worry about from behind them in the constructors unless they get the car massively wrong. But yeah. John Huberner, what motivation did Vettel have? He already knew he was going to Ferrari. He didn't know, though, in the first few months of that season because I think Ferrari approached Vettel during the summer break of 2014. So in the first 3 or 4 months, he was committed to Red Bull. But once Ferrari, approached Vettel, I think then he thought, you know what, I can't stay here, and if I do get further embarrassed, I can't allow that to happen. So he had to go to Ferrari to avoid not a definite embarrassment, but possible embarrassment going forward. Ultraman Nexus, Chaz, what about the look of the 2019 helmet spec? Yeah, they are. The helmets for 2019 are different. They have changed them slightly to make them safer. But to be honest, I don't really want to go through it because there's no real difference, and it's kind of a boring thing to analyze. So I'm not really going to talk about it because again, it's not that interesting. It's a good thing they've made it safer, but yeah, it's not the most interesting thing in the world. Francisco, Ricciardo to be best of the rest. I think he will. Right. I'm going to try now. And make sure, guys, in the live chat, make sure to put your last couple questions because I'm going to do another couple and then we'll end the stream. So make sure to put your last couple in. And we'll get them read out. Let me just read a couple comments whilst I wait for some more questions. Astro Stevo, Red Bull was screwing Danny Rick over badly, just like they did to Webber. It was definitely time for him to move. I think it was the right decision to move because if he stays, even if and I said this in the Ricciardo video, even if Red Bull have the best car on the grid in 2021, he's not going to be the number one in that team, and Max is going to be, the person who will be pushed towards winning the titles. So I think it was a smarter decision to take a risk, go to Renault and hope that their project does work out. And so far, maybe their progress is not as quick as it should be, but they are getting closer. A lot closer to their goal, again, than people think. Astro Stevo reckons Red Bull also go backwards this year. We'll see. Right, Ultraman. Oh, would you like to comment on that, Nib?
Well, just for our pal John Huber here, let's not forget that Ferrari did approach Vettel in the summer break of 2014. Now, if you'd like to take of all of the races up to Hungary, Mr. Vettel only beat Ricciardo once in a race up until the summer break of 2014. So,
and that was Malaysia, wasn't it?
No, it was Germany.
Oh, okay.
Because Ricciardo DNF'd at Malaysia,
okay.
So that doesn't actually count.
Yeah.
So Germany was the only race where he actually beat Ricciardo on track up until the summer break. So
yeah. Ultraman Nexus asks, are we going to see the hyper soft and super hard tires in 2019? I haven't really took a massive interest in the tires for 2019 because They have renamed them. I think was it C1, C2, C3, C4, C5. I think they've got rid of the super hard. I think the Hypersoft is around still, but it's called the C1, I think. But I'll make sure to update you guys by the time we get to the first race, what the situation with the tyres, the names of them, and you know what they're supposed to do for this season, so you guys know. Coming in to the season, but the final question and comment that I'll read out is from Simon Cragland. Which teammate battle are you looking most forward to in 2019? For me, it is Vettel versus Leclerc, and for me, it's exactly the same. I cannot wait to see not so much the battle between the two, but also how good is Charles Leclerc compared to Max Verstappen, Sebastian Vettel, Lewis Hamilton? Because, you know, 2018, he was very impressive. But now we can finally compare him to Verstappen, Vettel and Hamilton, because you couldn't compare him last year because he wasn't in a comparable enough car. So I cannot wait to see, finally, how good is Charles Leclerc. And Nib, I'm guessing you're probably thinking the same on that one.
Yes, of course. Even though my favourite driver, Ricardo, is going to be the new team, definitely the battle between Vettel and Leclerc is going to be the most exciting for this season.
Yeah, I think it will. The other teammate battle I'm looking forward to is Ricardo and Hulkenberg from a Nico Hulkenberg point of view, because now we will finally find out how good is Hulkenberg. I personally think he's overrated, but now we're going to find out in 2019 how good he is, because if he beats Ricardo comfortably over the season, you could argue that he should be in a top car. But if he doesn't and gets comfortably beaten, then, well, he is as good as we think he is. But we'll move on from the Q&A and come to the end of this stream. And Nib, again, thank you very much for coming on today, mate.
No worries, mate. And thank you to everyone in the chat, as per usual, especially to, of course, my fellow Australians who are in the chat, as always, up at this up at this time. But yeah, some very exciting weeks coming ahead. You know, we're just about 6 weeks away from the start of the season. A couple of weeks away now from pre-season testing and the car launches. So exciting times ahead.
Yeah, I can't wait. And again, thank you for coming on. But again, guys, thank you for watching the podcast today and being a part of it in the live chat. Now, again, I want to say tomorrow, 3 p.m. UK time, make sure you come to the channel, because we are going to be doing This Week in F1, and I'm going to be going in depth about Eddie Irvine's opinion about Sebastian Vettel. And as I said earlier, my opinion of it will surprise you. So just, yeah, make sure to tune in tomorrow. And I think, yeah, you'll be surprised by what I have to say. But yeah, don't forget to come to that tomorrow. We'll also discuss, as I said, the Renault news about their car being completely different, and probably a couple other stories as well. But thank you guys for coming along. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We're going to do this every single weekend, sorry, whether it's not an F1 race weekend. So don't forget to subscribe either bottom right of the screen or click on my channel name, go to the page and subscribe to the channel and hit the notifications bell. By the way, if you're new to the channel and you've just subbed, thank you very much, because we just have hit 2,000 subs. So thank you a lot for getting the channel up to 2,000 subs. Also, like this video, comment down below what you thought of this video, and comment down below what you thought of the topics. And if you have any questions to ask, make sure to put them in the comments and I'll answer them as quickly as possible. As well, don't forget to check out the 2 latest videos on the channel, last week's podcast and yesterday's Max Verstappen video. Both are in the description. There's a link there. Make sure to go and watch those. As well, don't forget to join our Discord server, which is the best place to have notifications for my videos. So don't forget to join that server. And as well, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Chaz6110. And don't forget to check out the website ChazzaHDF1.com for more content like this. But until tomorrow at 3 p.m. UK time for the next episode of This Week in Formula One, it's been me, ChazzaHD. Goodbye.